Hey y'all, it's Katrina with Faith and Loops Crochet. Welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to go over different things that happen in my crochet journey. One of the things that happened in my recent journey is I got chosen to do a pattern test for Melly Inspired Crochet. I got to do this wonderful lion pattern. She has a whole set on her Etsy account of different patterns that are the cute little ones that lay down, and they're super adorable. I'll link the pattern description below. This one is super cute, and I decided that I was going to embroider the nose. So I thought I would share it with you today. So I'm going to go ahead and do a tutorial on how I do the embroidered nose. I will be using the darning needles. I got a really neat kit on Amazon that came with a whole bunch of needles. And it was only like $7, and it came in this cute little tin can. And I dented mine, but it's super cute and it slides. It's really neat. I'll go ahead and link that below because that was a really good deal. But today we're going to embroider the nose. So I'm going to go over the techniques that I use to embroider the nose and see if it might help you out. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up and go through it with you. All right, I'm going to get started with this really cute guy. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and figure out exactly where I want the nose at. Now, this one right here is not your typical magic ring. So this was actually a chain, and then you go around to get that shape, and you'll find that in a lot of different patterns. But with this particular pattern, because it doesn't have that point on there, I got to figure out where my starting point is, because you normally start it in the center of the magic ring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my needles and kind of figure out where I want to put a triangle. And that triangle is going to guide me to do the nose. So I'm going to go ahead and take 2 of my needles, and it doesn't matter if it's a darning needle, if it's a straight needle. I'm going to go with my straight needles, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. So I know I'm going to want it to be like this and like this. So I need to figure out where I want my center point to be lined up in the middle of the face. So I'm thinking that this point right here looks like it's going to be about center. I'm not sure, so I'm going to go ahead and angle in and see what I think about where that triangle is going to be. Go ahead. And I think, you look right here, the way that those are lined up, that's where my stitches are going to be. I think that's going to be where I'm going to go ahead and start. So I'm going to leave these needles here while I go ahead and get my darning needle threaded. And I'm going to use a whole bunch. So I don't want to run out in the middle of it. So, it's one of those things where the acrylic yarn is fairly cheap, and and you can use that. But I prefer to use the cotton yarn. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's one of those things where I've had this one forever. It's an investment if you're going to do any type of embroidery work to have this. And you don't use a whole lot of it at one time. Noses tend to take more than what eyes do. So I made sure that I have a whole bunch out here because I don't want to run out in the middle of it. So I'm going to go ahead and thread my needle. Looked away for 2 seconds and split the yarn. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and thread this needle, and I'm going to put a triangle on this guy. So I want to start off in somewhere else so I can tie it off later. So I'm going to want to come up through the center point of where we marked it off. And see, I'm supposed to have it over here in the face so I can tie it off later. Pull all the way through. Like I said, you want a lot. I probably overdid it for the video, but you do want a lot because you're going to have to keep going and going and going until it fills out the nose. So I'm going to go ahead and go in here And I want this to the center to always be my ending point, because at the very end I'm going to add that last detail in, and it just makes things a lot easier if you always come out of this point. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that through and start my triangle so I can get a better view of exactly how this nose is going to turn out and if I like where the placement is. So if you can see right here, I actually needed to go down one more. You can tell that it's not quite in the same spot. So I actually got a thread in there. So see how I'm coming out perfect? Right there. So it will get a little bit easier as you spread that yarn out to get that spot every time. So I'm not too concerned about that. There we go. Got it exactly where we want it now. So now I'm going to go up here. Go up here and go in there. And remember, we always want to come out that bottom hole. So I'm going to make sure that I'm following that bottom hole and I come out in the right hole. There we go. I can go ahead and get that needle out of my way because I think I got it lined up. And if I have to readjust, I have to readjust all of it. So I'll have to put the needles back in. But go ahead, pull that needle out. And then I'm going to go up here. And instead of coming out this bottom hole, I'm going to go in here and come out over here. And the reason I'm doing that is to give my guide for the top of the triangle, because I want to kind of have an idea of where the top of it is too whenever I start running the thread back and forth in to get me lined up. So I'm going to go back across and come in here and then come out that center hole right here and get in a true, guide for exactly where that nose is going to turn out. And I'm pretty happy with that nose. Now, the white's shown a little bit through, but I'm not mad about that. I kind of like the way that's going to look. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to keep going kind of back and forth and filling in as I go. I'm going to be going over different stitches until I have the whole nose filled out. And then I can add a little bit of detail on the ends or a little bit more across the top. It just kind of depends on how it starts to go, because each one of them has their own character and the way the stitches are. So because I have two over here already, I'm going to go ahead and go on this side, coming out that center hole. And the same way that you do safety eyes, I'm going to, once it gets down to the bottom of the stitch, I'm going to guide it exactly where I want it. Now, I kind of want it on this outside a little bit so I can get that finer point a little bit. So I kind of guided it where I wanted it there. So now I'm going to go ahead and go right here and start filling in the nose. Now, this string right here that we went across, I'm going to go behind it like this, because that's our guide point. So I'm going to go behind it like that and then come out that bottom hole. I don't want to pull it super tight, but tight enough. So I'm going to go ahead and put it here, making sure I go behind that stitch that goes across. Put it in that center hole and pull. All right, got that kind of established there. And then I'm going to go right here, making sure I go in behind that stitch that goes along and come out that center hole. Oh, got caught on the toe. Center home, make sure we don't pull it too tight, but tight enough. All right. So I need some more over here, so I'm going to go ahead and go over here. Find a stitch to put it in. Come out that center hole. And if you can see why you need that much yarn, you never know exactly how much you need because you need to fill it all out, and it's really hard. See, I tightened that a little bit too much, so I'm going to go ahead and just loosen that up just a touch. You know, you don't want to run out of thread at the very end because it's really hard to reattach it. You're going to have to go back in and basically start a new thing of yarn and tie it off somewhere else. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep going back and forth, coming out of that center hole until it's completely filled in. Kind of guiding it with my finger as I go. I want that right there, so I'm going to make sure that my finger kind of holds there. A little bit tighter. All right. Through. I'm trying to fill in that a little bit more. So, once again, guiding it with my finger exactly where I want it to go, which is about right there. All right. You can see it's really starting to shape up. It's really starting to turn out the way that I see it in my head, so that's always great. Sure I got it with my finger exactly where I want it to go. It's kind of more tedious at this point to get it to go exactly where you want it to go because it will make a huge difference in the outcome of the nose if you don't get it lined up just right. You can always pick it out, but one thing that whenever you do pick it out when you're doing a nose is you could literally ruin the whole thing. So if you try to guide it as you go, it makes it a whole lot easier because if you try to pick it out, you can split your yarn, and I've done that before and had to completely start over. And nobody really wants to do that. Now this side of the nose to me is looking really good. It looks like I need about one more stitch right there, making sure that I got it right where I want it. Coming out that center point. All right. There we go. Shaping up pretty nicely. Now I'm going to start working on this other side. So I'm going to go ahead and go up here. You can kind of look at it and match it up where you want it. Go in here. Bottom hole. Making sure I got it with my finger. Now you can see up here that this is not quite lined up, but I do have a trick that I'm going to do at the end that's going to make it all look uniformed, I guess you could say. We'll take care of that line. I'm going to go ahead, and it looks like I need a piece right there, so I'm going to put it right there and put the needle through. Feel like I'm on Finding Nemo. Just keep swimming, swimming, but just keep pulling, pulling. We'll go ahead and go right here and making sure I come out that bottom hole. And I don't know about you all, but it's really, really starting to take shape. I am getting there. I got a few final touches to make, and I think I'm going to be pretty happy with the nose. All right, looks like I need about maybe one, maybe two more right there. That side looks pretty good. I'm kind of spreading them apart a little bit to see how full it is because I want to make sure it's full before I do some of my finishing touches on it. So it looks like I'm probably going to need about 2 more stitches or run throughs, however you want to put it. Oh, it got twisted on me. Hold on. There we go. Make sure I come out that bottom. It was running away from me, could you tell? Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pull that through. Making sure, see that little bit of white? Can you see that little bit of white peeking through? I'm going to make sure that that piece of yarn is right on that white to cover it up. There we go. Now, can you see that little piece of white right there? I'm going to make sure that I go through and cover that up as well. Sure, I come through that bottom hole. Right, getting to that tedious part, making sure I'm going to line it up with my finger exactly where I want it. There we go. Now I'm going to kind of spread them out a little bit. Got it for the most part. I think I'm going to put one more piece right there. Yeah, put one more piece right there. Kind of spread them apart because, you know, you don't want the white showing through. And especially with the project like this with the white, it's going to show up kind of like what they say, a sore thumb. It's going to show up pretty good because you got the black on the white. So I'm going to go ahead and put another stitch there. All right. I think that looks pretty good. So, you know how this is all kind of jagged right here where we've accidentally maybe gone up a stitch too much or something like that? Now, what I'm going to do with this yarn is I'm going to run it up here and come out like we did in the beginning. So, I'm going to go ahead and do one final stitch and go across the nose and come out this other side. That's going to give me my finishing touches on there. There we go. Now, you remember how we done that one piece going across? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to go underneath all of those stitches, making sure I go underneath all of them and not to split any of them. And I'm going to pull this back through. Kind of pull it a little bit tighter. See, I didn't go through that last stitch, so I want to make sure I go through them all. There we go. Through it all. All right. Now tighten them up a little bit. Now I'm going to go back in there and come out this other side again. And this time, instead of running it over or run it under, I'm going to run it over. So, run it over. There we go. Now, come back this other side real quick and kind of see where my progress is. Now, I think right here, I accidentally went down a stitch too far. Do you see that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back down here and I'm going to make sure that I get up one more stitch to cover that up. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I hold this in the right place. I'm going to stick it in this bottom and I'm going to come up. Now I'm going to go under this, not over it, but under it. Right there. You see how I went under it and not over top of it. Pull this back through. Line that up. Now we're going to have to line this up. Let's see here. Not quite where I want it. I think that's going to work once I put it up over here. On that center hole. I'm going the opposite direction than what I normally do, but I got to fix this error. So It's kind of like one of those things sometimes you come across that you got to kind of fix and do things maybe a little bit different. But I will be coming out that center hole whenever I'm finally done. I'm going to go ahead and go back up here. Oh, put out a piece of the that might be part of the problem is. There we go. Right. I think I'm going to do one more stitch. I'm going to try to come out right there, making sure I go under. There we go. Make sure I got it with my finger. All right. I think that's about got it. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and go back in here. I'm going to come back through here. You remember how we went through under all the stitches to line them up? We're going to do that one more time. Making sure that we get underneath all those stitches. I'm underneath them all. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that through and then go over the top one more time. Then come out that bottom. Remember I told you that we were going to figure out a way to come out that bottom? There we go. Now let's check her out and see how she looks. Fluff in there. Well, that looks pretty good to me. I'm pretty happy with that. Every time you do a nose, you might run into a few things like I did, like I went down a stitch too far. And, you know, I have literally had to pull it all out and redo it multiple times. But if you get the triangle down pat and you do the stitches as you go, normally you can fix it by just going up and under the stitches to kind of feel it out so you can make sure that you got that nice crisp line at the top. Now, one more thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and put a line down here and then go ahead and finish her off. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure that we come out through that hole, is so we can go ahead and do the final touch and then go ahead and finish it off and tie it off. So I'm thinking I probably want the mouth to be about right here because I want it to be lined up. I don't want it to be crooked. So I'm thinking that this right here is the point that I want, that stitch right there. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in that stitch and then come out the starting hole, making sure that it is in the same stitch. Yep, there we go. Pull it through. And I think that's cute. I'm going to pull this a little bit tighter because I want it to kind of poof out a little bit. And I think that it turned out pretty good. So I'm just going to simply, and this time I kind of want it to sink in a little bit. So I'm not going to worry about anchoring it in because I don't think it's going to be an issue with this piece. So I'm going to go ahead and tie him off. And cut my string. And make sure it's good and tight. Stick it in here. Come out that stitch right there. And go ahead and pull the yarn through. Had the end. All right. So my lion is done. I hope that might help you whenever you go to do noses. I know that each and every time I do a nose, even if it's on the same project, it's a little bit different. It's kind of like the eyes. They have their own personal little touches that they do in their character. But that's one of the beauties of being an artist, is that, you know, not every single hand piece is going to look the same way. It's just not. It's handmade. So each piece is individually made, and it's amazing how your mood or your timing of day and different stuff can affect how it comes out. So each one of them has their own character. So sometimes if you have a wonky nose or you have wonky eyes or something like that, just know that everybody's done that, and it's a unique piece that nobody else will have. I've done it with a giraffe before, and it sold. So everybody has their own techniques. This one was mine in particular. So if this did help you, please like and subscribe, and hopefully I will be doing more content like this. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a blessed day.